Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me today. Looks like we got a good attendance list today. Thank you for joining me on uh, looks like an autumn weather here, at least in Vancouver. About like 10 degrees, wet, leaves are falling. It's one of my favorite times of the year, actually. It's not so hot anymore, right? And you get to wear, nice sweaters and stuff like that. Looks like we got 39 attendees, and it's just at the top of the hour. I'm gonna give everybody about a minute here or so just to make sure everyone's all settled in. You want to go grab coffee, now's the time. And if you don't mind, just so I can make sure that you guys can hear me or not, please post in the chat. Let me know where you're joining us from. Morning, Marissa, Jana, Randy. Also, coffee provided. Yeah, right. It's right behind. You guys just grab how much you guys are welcome to it. Okay, I got one of those Nespresso pod things. I'm just having water. No coffee for now for me. Saskatchewan. Oh, awesome, nice. Colorado Springs, Washington, Ronald Washington. Oh, no, haven't seen that place before on my chat. That's great. Chico, I've been there once. Aurelia and Scottsdale. Hey, David. I used to live in Scottsdale, Arizona as well, just south of Old Town. Friday Harbor, Washington, Almagorado, New Mexico, Alexandria, Minnesota, Windsor, Ontario. Nice. Kansas City. Sweet. Okay, cool. Thank you guys for joining me. Sounds like you guys can hear me all right, and you guys can see me. And I've got my notes here up on the screen. In case you can't see it or whatever, or if I'm going too fast, just let me know. Definitely would like to make sure that you guys can absorb all this information. There is a lot that we're going to go over, as you guys can imagine, coming from Top Producer 8i, your reliable Top Producer 8i, to this new version Top Producer X, and all that entails with the new version, right? All the hesitations and the excitement. Hopefully some of you guys can see that as well. Because we do have a large group, I have Marvin LaRosa joining me here today. He is part of our research team. He just said hello to everybody on the chat. Marvin LaRosa has been with us for years. He is part of our research team, and they handle basically the most complex technical questions that happen here in Top Producer Customer Care. So we are all in good hands here today. In case something comes up, Marvin will be on the spot ready to help. If it is something that requires more troubleshooting, requires more involvement, he'll let you know, and you'll probably have to reach out to us through the chat program inside inside Top Producer, so we can give you a bit of a one-on-one troubleshooting session. Otherwise, as I go along, he's going to also share some really useful campus articles on all the new benefits and all the new features that we're going to talk about inside Top Producer X. Good morning, Bob and Rob. Betsy, hope this new one is more reliable. Yeah, right. If you don't know what Betsy's talking about, 8i, Top Producer 8i has been sort of acting a little bit weird, to put it nicely, over the past few weeks, where you get like slowness or random errors or something like that. So I do kind of want to address that right away. We did implement a new fix just last week, actually, and hopefully you guys are seeing Top Producer 8i a lot more reliably now over the last few days. Let us know if it isn't still not, if you're still having like slowness or timeout issues. But yeah, 8i should be a lot more reliable moving forward. We identified an issue in the programming that we've since applied a fix for, and that should take care of the recent performance issues in Top Producer 8i. And it's kind of a nice segue to this conversation on upgrading from Top Producer 8i to X. I'm going to give you all the benefits and all the new features and all the new information about the new version Top Producer X. But it's really up to you if you guys want to switch to the new version, or if you're happy to use 8i, go right ahead. You are welcome to do so. We don't have any plans to get rid of 8i anytime soon. Just keep in mind that because it is an older technology, it was built, let's say in the early 2000s, or maybe even the late 90s. That programming language behind it is, of course, starting to get more outdated as time passes, right? Which is why it's harder for us to figure out if there's a slowness or time limit issue, what we need to do to fix it. Actually, a lot of our programmers, I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but a lot of our programmers, they have less experience with the older programming language, because we're putting a lot of our new content, our new features into this new version, Top Producer X. So with 8i, we want to make sure that if you're happy with it, you want to continue to use it, even after this webinar. We want you guys to feel supported, that we're going to continue to make sure 8i works for you. Okay. But because it is a little bit of an older technology, there may be some limitations that we might run into that could prevent us, from fixing things right away, or that could prevent us from adding new stuff into it, right? It's just kind of how software works. We're putting all our new stuff in the new version because that's going to be what you guys will hopefully use in the next 5, 10, 20, 30 years, right? Depending on how long, just like in 8i, it's been probably 20 years now since it's been out. So we're kind of thinking of in the long run with Top Producer X. Let's see here. Betsy, only doing tech support, have used Top Producer for 30 years. I've always been appreciated being able to talk to a real person. James, I agree. I'd rather talk to someone. Stephanie's support has gone downhill tremendously over the last 12 years. Unacceptable to get a response days later when it is needed the day of. Gary, I agree. Very slow response time. Carrie has been awful. 8i. Okay, hopefully not the service. But yeah, so as far as the service goes, yeah, this slowness has kind of put a lot of pressure on everyone involved, because it does kind of slow things down, right? It's kind of like all hands on deck. We did get a lot of calls about it. So hopefully with the issue being resolved through a change in the program, the background, that will help everything else and make sure that you guys are getting fast service from us. Now, as far as phone support, I say, never say never. What I would say right now, because of all the slowness issue, we prioritize getting you a response right away, and that the fastest way to do that, just in practical terms, is through chat support, where we can handle multiple chat conversations at the same time, versus a phone call where we just have to stick to that one call, right? If there are issues in the chat where it's still not working, we will escalate that to a phone call. So it's not technically all gone like the phone support, but if we really have to, we will make a call to you. Okay, but just to kind of triage all the technical issues that sometimes not technical, it's just like how do I print labels, right? Things like that, to triage all the more complex issues that needs a phone call versus the ones that can be answered right away. That's why we are primarily taking inbound chat support at this time. It might seem like it's faster for us, Betsy. I totally understand that sentiment, but it is something that we were getting a lot of complaints about when all this stuff happened with 8i, where there was a long phone hold for like 45 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. It was really bad, and there was more angrier customers because of that before we made the switch. Once we made that switch to chat support, we actually had less complaints about service. So I'm not trying to, cause a debate or anything like that, but I just want to be transparent with you guys so you guys know like how we're trying to help you guys as best as we can. But we could end up going back to full phone support for all I know, right? But I kind of want to make sure that you guys are hearing it from me, that that's kind of why we're doing chat support, at least in the beginning of a conversation. And then if we have to, we'll give you a call. Gary, is it better to use chat or email to TP support? Gary, if you need immediate response, the chat is better. But if you don't need immediate response, like you just like maybe you just want a copy of your invoice or something like that, and you can, you don't need a minute response, you can just email it in and we'll get back to you usually within the 1 to 2 business days, right? There, let's move on to X features and benefits. Yes, I agree. All right, so thank you for that. And first thing I wanted to talk about is something we recently added into the system called the new automated lead response plan. And this is for all your online leads. So if you get internet leads, not the ones that you met in person, or someone called in and say, hey, I want to look at a house or whatever. This is for your internet leads. So if you get a lead from your own website for free, or your brokerage, if you're part of a bigger brokerage, or maybe you signed up with a paid lead provider, right? Like Zillow or Realtor.com, people like that. We have this new automated lead response plan so that it takes care of a lot of that lead response that you have to do for an internet lead, because sometimes they can come out of nowhere, right? They could be looking at a property on Realtor.com and sending you a lead capture form at 2 a.m, right? Where you're not available, or maybe even during business hours, you might be stuck on an appointment. You're showing a house or something like that, right? And someone on the internet comes in and says, hey, I need help with, selling my house, right? With this all new automated lead response plans, we're going to help you take care of some of that for you. And the goal of it is to get a response out of that lead, because that's the biggest challenge with internet leads, is getting a response out of them. And speed is the key there, right? And automation. So as soon as they come in, you can set up your automated lead response so that it emails them right away, it texts them right away, and you can even send multiple messages automatically. So like you can set one to send right away, and then maybe 10 minutes later you want to send them a text, maybe an hour later you want to send them an email, and you can do it even over multiple days. So it's in addition to, you might think, oh, my lead provider already sends them a text message right away, but usually it's just that initial response, right? With this one, you can have a proper follow-up plan that's automatic for those online leads, and you can stretch it over multiple days. And as soon as they respond to any of those messages, it's going to stop the rest of it. So it's not going to continue to try to convince them to respond, right? So that's the goal of this new automated lead response plan. We're getting a lot of positive feedback about it. And then once they respond to it, right, that's where you work your magic as the realtor, and start talking to them about their options as far as buying or selling goes. I think, yes, Marvin just shared a link there on more information about that lead response plan. If you want to like go through and walk through how it works, he's got that in the chat. Because the chat is very active right now, I'm going to take final questions at the end of the show, because we only have about an hour. So I'm going to get back to your questions at the end of the show if they haven't been replied to yet from Marvin. So I'm just going to apologize at a time. I'm not trying to ignore your questions. I just need to leave it at the end because we've got a lot of content that we have to go through. Okay, so bear with me guys for a bit. So we're going to talk about what's new in X and what are the things that we've improved from 8i to X, what some of those features are that we've upgraded. So these ones that I'm talking about first are brand new to Top Producer X. And the first couple of things I want to show you guys is the new 360 contact view in Top Producer X, and something we call the property insights that is more geared towards your buyer clients. So I'm actually gonna do a bit of a live presentation on these two so you guys can understand it a little bit better. So I'm just gonna get out of my notes here, go into my Chrome, and I'm in my Top Producer X right now. If you don't know how to get into your Top Producer X, the URL is crm.topproducer.com. Or if you're in your 8i, I'm just gonna zoom in there. If you're in your 8i, we actually have a dedicated button that says right there at the top that says TPX. So if you just click on that, it'll take you to your Top Producer X. And I'm also gonna zoom in on this one too, so it's easy for everyone to see. All right. So that's how you get into your Top Producer X, just the button at the top. Or if you want to save it as a bookmark, the crm.topproducer.com is the URL or the link. So the 360 contact view. Let's just open up one of these contacts and kind of compare them with the same contact in 8i. So in 8i, you've got all these tabs. So usually it's the summary tab where it's got a bunch of information in there, all the contact notes, your tasks or activities, all that stuff, any listings and closings, et cetera, right? The problem with this one is that it's not really customizable. It's just kind of like, that's the way it's organized is the way it is. With Top Producer X, this is one of the complaints or feedback that we got from 8i users is they wanted a bit more customization as far as their 8i goes, especially making it easier for you to navigate around the system, right? If you don't like going to the summary tab all the time, or you don't like the order of the way it's displayed here, and you kind of just gotten used to it, with Top Producer X, we're giving you more customization or personalization so that you're more efficient with your workflow. So I'm just gonna reset this for a quick sec here. All right. So with your contact record in TPX, you can actually move the tabs around depending on how your workflow is. So if you know, by default, the dashboard is at the top, but maybe right away, part of your workflow is, you know, once I see like, you know, their most recent notes, maybe I want to look at all the tasks that I have to do for them. So I can actually drag and move that up at the second spot here so that I can naturally just go from top to bottom when I'm reviewing this contact. So it's easier for me to get into the same routine, which makes me faster at reviewing each contact, right? So I want dashboard, maybe I want tax, and then maybe instead of emails, I want to look at, you know, if they have any relationships that I'm tracking, like their spouse or tenants, or if they have a child, stuff like that, right? So that's what we mean here by the 360 contact view. Is it's just a lot more customizable than Top Producer 8i, and we did get feedback about 8i where it's not as customizable. So we're trying to, you know, where it makes sense, give you some of that personalization when you're navigating it. And the goal is not to just make it look pretty. The goal is to make sure that it works for you so that you're faster at using it, and you can, you know, you can focus more on what you actually need to focus on, which is actually talking to your buyers and sellers, right? Not trying to learn the system. So once you've got it all configured the way you want it to, in the long run, you know, after you get more familiar with the system, of course, you should be more efficient with it. The next feature that I talked about in that slide is the property insights feature. So this is really useful for your buyer clients, where you want to keep track of all the properties that they mentioned to you that they're interested in or maybe not interested in, right? With 8i, we didn't have a feature like that where it's just strictly a list of all the open listings that they might be interested in not. So with Property Insights, we can actually do that. And let me just give you guys an example. I'm just gonna pull up, any of these IDX websites like realtor.ca here in Vancouver. So I'm in Vancouver. I'm just going to look up properties in Vancouver so I can better relate. And actually, I make this more realistic. I am interested in moving to this suburb in Vancouver called Richmond. And I really like their downtown area because everything is so convenient. And I've got a certain budget. Let's see if we can get this to the way we want it. Okay, so let's say just these four, right? So customer wants to, so your buyer wants to look at these 4 houses, right? It would be nice to have them all in one place where you have all your other work that you're already, handling. Let me just make that a little bit easier to see for everybody. By the way, this webinar is recorded. So usually on the recording, my video where my face is going to be on the top right corner here. So sometimes it covers this part of the browser. So I'm just resizing it right now just for the recording. So it's easier for everyone to see it from the recording. But let's say this buyer client that you have is interested in this suburb called Richmond, and they text you saying, hey, I like that. I went on Zillow and I saw this listing on there. Can you add it to my list of properties that I want to look at the end of this month? So you're like, okay, sure, Roger, let me go ahead and put that into my notes here. And in Top Producer X, all you have to do is just plug in that MLS ID. You can even do the address if you want, but if you have that ID handy, it's probably much faster to do it that way. And this is connected to your MLS board, so you don't have to manually type in all the information about that property they're interested in looking at, right? It automatically pulls in that front picture of that property, gives you all these details, and you can set their interest level. So let's say this one is something they're interested in, and you just save it in like that. So it's just a few, not even a few clicks, maybe 1 or 2 clicks, it's in there. And then let's add a second one in. Maybe this one, they said, oh yeah, I also looked at this property. I just want to make sure if you see it in on your side, Mr. Realtor, that for me, I don't like this property. I just want to make sure you remember that. So they say, okay, they don't like this property. I'm gonna say their interest level, it says not interested, right? So this basically serves as your memory, right? You're keeping a central place for all these properties that your buyer client might be interested in or not, and you're having it all in their contact record. In 8i, there is no special place for you to keep track of these properties that they might be interested in. With Top Producer X, you have that option, and because it's connected to the MLS board, if the status of that property changes, like let's say this one sold, or this one expired, or let's say the price changes, right? This went up from 299 to 400,000 or something crazy like that. It's all automatic. You don't have to do your own research on your MLS board every single time that you need to look up that information. You just go into your Top Producer and pull it up. So let me just grab this last one here and make sure it looks more full, more realistic. right? There we go. Right, so you got this buyer client interested in these 4 properties, or actually 3 of them. One of them they're not interested in. So let's say they call you at the end of the month and they say, hey, do you remember, are you ready to go to look at those properties? Can you set up some appointments over this weekend? And let's say you go into the property insights, one of them is sold, one of them is expired, one went up. Right away, you can start talking to them about that. You're not wasting time going into your MLS looking up that information. So you can say, Roger, hey, yeah, no, definitely, let's set up some viewings for these 4 properties, but just let you know, one of them actually sold, so we can't look at that anymore. One of them actually expired, so obviously we can't look at that one anymore. Maybe the seller backed out and they want to keep it. And then so there's 2 that we can look at. One is the one on Buswell Street, unit 204 for $279. And then on the same building, it looks like the one above it, the floor above it, 304. Just giving you a heads up, it went, the price changed. Last time we talked about it, it was $299. Right now it's $329, right? So it went up 30,000, right? Do you still want to take a look at that? Right, so you can see how that conversation is so much more faster, and you really will impress your buyer client just with your photographic, quote unquote, photographic memory, right? And but all you're doing is pulling up your contact, running your property insights, and it's all right there for you, up to date, right from your MLS board. So less effort that you have to do to, focus more on what you need to do, not trying to figure out how to use your computer. So those are the 2 first new features in X, being able to kind of customize the way your contact record looks, makes it faster for you to navigate, and the new feature called Property Insights for your buyer clients. Let's get back to my notes here. All right, so the next new features are email tracking and unlimited texting in your Top Producer X. So what does this mean? With 8i, when you send out an email, it doesn't tell you if someone's opened it or not. You just send it out, and if you want to look at your completed activities to see if at least it was sent, you can do that. But you won't know if someone's actually opened it. So that's actually a very popular suggestion from our 8i users, to be able to see those emails if they're being opened by their actual contact or their lead. So we weren't able to add that in 8i. Again, product programming limitation, all that jazz. But with Top Producer X, we are able to show you if they open that email that you spend a lot of time on. Maybe you spent some money on a nice picture, or you hired a web developer to format it the way you want it to format in the email, right? So all of that resource that you put into it would be nice to get some, early impressions from your leads if they're actually opening it or not, right? So with Top Producer X, it gives you these icons to tell you if it's opened or not. So the red eye with a slash across it, that means it wasn't sent, or sorry, it wasn't viewed by that lead. This one with looks like a box with an arrow going into it, that means they replied to your email. And then this green one, the green eye, that means that they viewed that email. So it's giving you that visual feedback on your email history. What's cool about it too is if you send out an email through that same account that you have. So if you have like an iCloud account or a Gmail account, and if you send out an email not from your Top Producer X, so you send it an email from your phone, for example, you wanted to send them a quick reply, that sent email that you sent out that you didn't do from Top Producer, you did it from your phone, it will also show up in here. So you don't even have to be using Top Producer X to use it. It's gonna track those emails any emails that you send or receive in that same email account that you've connected in your Top Producer X settings. And then to the right here, I can't show you an example because I don't want to show you guys my real cell phone number that I connected in my test account. But basically, it's just the way it looks here. You've all seen chat conversations or texting conversations on your phone before, but in your contact record in Top Producer X, let me just pull up the same contact here. There is this text tab here, so you can actually send them a text right from your top producer, right? By the way, all the names and phone numbers that you see here in my database, they're all test names. There's no real leads in here. Sorry to say that, but you know, these, just so you know, they're all fake phone numbers and email addresses and addresses in here. But going back to what I was talking about here, texting, you can send a text right from your Top Producer X. And if you happen to find yourself sending the same message over and over and over again, so let's say you have a list of buyer leads, right? You've got like 10 of them that you need to send a text to, saying, you know, just saying, hi, you know, I got your inquiry from Zillow. How can I help you, right? If you see, if you find yourself sending the same message over and over again, you don't have to keep typing it in manually. What you can do is create a template for that text message and reuse it over and over again. So it'll save you some manual typing, save you potentially from making spelling mistakes, right? So if this is a buyer, new lead, initial follow-up. So I can actually, let me just start over from a blank screen here. If you're sending the same message over and over, you can just create it as a template, save it as a template in your template library, and then just reuse it. You just select it from the list of templates. So initial follow-up here, and then bam, it's just gonna put it in. So you just select that template, hit send, select that template, hit send. You can do that for the 10 buyer leads that you want to talk to, right? If it's the same type of message that you need to send out. We don't really want to make you do mass texting because then you'll lose that personal touch, right? So just keep that in mind. Try to, although it's very convenient to do mass marketing, we really encourage people to put in that personal touch. But at the same time, if it makes it easier for you guys to send the same message over and over, we have created a template option for your text messages. And that's usually something that's not available on your regular cell phone, where you can send the same message over and over again, right? So with Top Producer X, you have that option to make it faster for you to go through all your text messages that you need to send out. The other benefit to using the texting in Top Producer X is that you don't have to use a small, tiny screen keyboard to type in your text message. You can have your full keyboard that you have on your desk and type it out. And if your phone gets lost, or you break it, or you switch from an iPhone to an Android, or Android to an iPhone, you're not worried about losing your text messages that was on your phone, right? Your text messages are right in your Top Producer X, where you can access it from any computer, and soon you'll be able to access it from mobile devices as well. We are planning to make this mobile friendly, so you can basically tap on it from your home screen on your phone, and it'll show you a mobile version of Top Producer X. Hopefully that is in the next month or so. I think that's what I heard. That's like our next big update that we're putting into Top Producer X. But yeah, another new feature not available in 8i. You can send text messages now straight from your Top Producer. Next is the contact list. So we call it Smart Contact List because it's going to help you identify which of your contacts you haven't talked to in a while. And it'll give you a gentle reminder that you set up yourself. So let me just show you what that looks like live. All right, so let's say I'm in my top producer. I just imported a bunch of my contacts in here. I do remember talking, or at least trying to send Tracy. I tried calling her, but she didn't respond. But I'm gonna just track that I sent her. I tried calling her, right? I'm gonna call this cold call attempt 1, no response. Trying again in a week. So I can schedule a next follow-up call. I'll call my next follow-up call cold call attempt 2. And I said I'm going to do it next week. So today's the 26th. I'm going to do it for November 2 and save that wrap up. Right. So I imported a contact list into my top producer. I remember trying to call Tracy, and now I've set up another call to try to get her to answer me next week. I've plugged that in. So you can see I've done something with Tracy here, Tracy Dunaway, in my top producer X less than a minute ago, which is different from all my imported contacts that, the last time I did anything with them was a day ago. That's because that's when I imported them. So with the Smart Contact List, you can set up a follow-up reminder so that if you want to make sure that list that you have in your contacts, that you keep trying to talk to them every day, you can set up a follow-up reminder for however many days you want it to tell you. And you can see how it changes the colors, the background colors. So it recognized that Tracy, you talked to them a minute ago, but all these people you need to follow up with now because you set yourself a reminder every day, and it's already been a day and you haven't talked to them yet. After a couple of days, it's going to turn red. It's going to say overdue. But this is one of the ways we can help you make sure that you're on track with all the follow-up that you have to do. And because this is newer and more customizable, you can actually see the tabs at the top, and you can rearrange it, the ones that we've pre-made already for you, or you can put in your own. So there's a little tab on the top right corner here that looks like a gear. If you click on that, you can create your own. So if you just want all your buyers, you can have a buyer tab. And let me just zoom out so you guys can see how that looks. So I've got a buyer tab. See, I got already one in there. John Fegley is a buyer of mine. Right. So you can just imagine all the customization that you can do. I've talked to realtors where they, the term that they use was buckets. So they put people in certain buckets so they can make it more organized to say, okay, this week, I'm going to focus all on my buyers. This week, I'm going to focus all on my sellers. So it just makes you a lot more focused on who you should talk to next with the smart contact list that you can create in your top producer X. And if you're more of a buyer realtor, and you want to go to the buyers tab every single time that you log into your top producer, you can actually set that as your default. So the default is usually new, but if you really want like a certain tab to be your default, you can set that. So I just go to that tab, click on the gear, and say set current tab as default. So even if I went to new like this, or engage, if I log out and log back in, it should default me back to that buyer tab that I set as default. There we go. So I was at engage or new, and it doesn't matter where I was, it put me back to my default tab. So again, this is brand new to Top Producer X, that, you know, we've heard from you guys. You want more customization as far as the dashboard goes. Now let's get into all the existing features in 8i or similar features in 8i that we've updated in Top Producer X. So you can compare the two and decide whether it's worth it for you or not. With Top Producer X, let me just make that bigger. Transactions is a lot more, it gives you a lot more options as far as keeping track of what you need to do next. So in 8i, there was only about 4 transaction dates that you can track, which is the listing date, the closing date, the expiration date, and maybe a reminder date. I think that's the 4. With Top Producer X, as you can see here on the screen, you can track more important dates as far as that transaction goes, so you can make sure it closes. So on top of the listing and closing date, you can now set up, you know, when that offer was made, when does that expire, you know, was there a mortgage commitment date that you got from the lender, stuff like that. So you can you can track all these dates in a timeline. And what's nice about it is you can set up a task. For example, you might want to have a photographer come in 1 day before the listing date, right? So if the listing date was, let's say November 1, right? And you set it to that photographer to go in there 1 day before that listing date, which happens to be November 1. That photographer should be in there then on October 31st. But let's say you get a call from the seller and they say, you know what, I actually need to delay this a little bit because I've got some out of town guests coming and I don't want to sell this house too early. So can we put the listing date for December 1, right? I don't know how realistic that is as a scenario, but let's just go with it. Let's say they want to delay that listing date. Instead of November 1, they move it to December 1. So now you've got that task that you need to, for that photographer to come in a day before, right? You always want it a day before so that it's as fresh as it can be when you put it up on the MLS. So instead of having to manually update that photographer session that was due on October 31, it will automatically update to the new listing date. So if the listing date went from November 1 to December 1, that photographer due date goes from October 31st to November 30th, right? So that's what we mean here with dynamic workflows. You can set it so that it automatically updates anytime any of these dates that you've set it for as a dependent date. Hopefully that makes sense. I know it makes sense because Ali Pol here, she is one of our regular webinar guests usually. She's a closing coordinator for a very large brokerage, and she uses Top Producer X all the time, and she's found it to be simpler to use, and she's even created her own process and templates and so on. So hopefully you guys find the same success as her as far as transaction management goes. The other features that we've improved from 8i to X are email deliverability and contact and calendar sync. So what we mean about email deliverability is because emails, when you connect your email account in Top Producer X, whenever you send out that email from Top Producer X, it's going to send it out directly from your email account. It's not going to look like it's coming from Top Producer. So I don't know if you guys realize this with Top Producer 8i, even though you put in your reply address. So let's say it's like dan@dansellshomes.com. That's my email, for example. And when I send out an email from 8i, it shows that's my reply address, right? it's not actually sending it from my Gmail account that I signed up with for that email address. It's sending it from a central server in 8i in Top Producer. And all our 8i customers, regardless of what your email address is, we're actually sending it through a central server here in Top Producer to send out that email. So that email is queued up in a list to be sent out. Usually happens within seconds, within minutes. Sometimes it can take up to 24 hours, depending on, we have other 8i users that decided to spam all their, 10,000 contacts, right? And it just delays everybody else. That's the downside to how 8i, at least back then, it wasn't so bad. Like when we first started 8i, we didn't think people would, just start emailing, hundreds of contacts in 10 minutes or whatever, right? It wasn't a big deal, but now that 8i unfortunately has become more saturated as far as marketing goes, it does affect everyone. So with 8i, your emails are affected by other 8i users. So if you have another 8i user that has a more spammy behavior, unfortunately, your reputation as far as sending goes is affected because it's all coming from the same source, the same server from Top Producer. So sometimes it will go into spam, sometimes it will go into the junk folder of that client. And we don't want that, right? The most important thing for an email is that they actually get it in their inbox. So sometimes it does go into the spam folder when you send it out from 8i. It's more likely to go into their spam folder. When that happens, we do have some tools to mitigate it from happening. And we would talk to Google, we would talk to Apple, we would talk to Yahoo, whoever all these email providers are, to try to work with them to say, hey, you know that 10,000 emails that you got from our servers, it was only this user, so please unblock us, or please don't put us in the junk folder or whatever, right? Something like that. So, but there is a delay in that, right? There's a process that we have to go through to mitigate that whenever that happens. With Top Producer X, we avoid that issue completely. Once you connect your email account in Top Producer X, it's sending it directly from your Google account or your Apple account or your Yahoo account. It's not coming from Top Producer. So you're not affected by other Top Producer users. However they want to send out emails, that's on them, but it's not going to affect your emails. So your emails, as a result, are less likely to end up in someone's spam folder because of other people that are using Top Producer. So that's what we mean by email deliverability. It's just less likely to go into spam compared to 8i at least. And then on the right side here, contact and calendar sync. So first of all, the sync in 8i, it used to have a contact and calendar sync before in there too, but unfortunately it doesn't work anymore. So if you want to sync your contacts from your phone, if you want to sync all your appointments on your phone, you can do that in Top Producer X. You can't do that in 8i anymore. That is one of the times where we actually ran into limitation in 8i, where Google updates their security policy all the time. So to make sure, they don't get attacked by hackers, or your private information doesn't get compromised, stuff like that. So they have what they call a security policy process, where they do it regularly. They talk to all the vendors like Top Producer out there, other companies that try to connect to that Google account, and to make sure that that connection is secure, right? The one with 8i, unfortunately, we couldn't make it happen. So we couldn't allow the contact and calendar sync to continue in 8i because it would have failed that Google security policy, as an example. And we have a lot of Google users, right? So that wouldn't be a good experience for our 8i users. So unfortunately, that's where we had to discontinue that particular feature in 8i. With that said, we were able to find a solution in Top Producer X. It conforms to or complies with all the security policies that Google ask of us, and same thing with Apple or Microsoft with their Outlook service and all that stuff. So if you want to sync your contacts and your appointment, you can do that in Top Producer X. So that's a lot of information in here. I know I keep seeing the chat scrolling up and up because I know you guys are in there and giving some really good feedback, positive, negative. We all love it. So keep going, keep doing that. We need to hear from you guys because you guys are our partners in this business, right? So there are going to be features in Top Producer X that either doesn't work as nicely as in 8i in your opinion, or just doesn't exist. Right? So whether that's printing labels, printing letters, we all know that's very important to your business. This is why we have no plans to get rid of 8i, because if those are the things that you rely on and it's already working for you in 8i, you're more than welcome to continue 8i to do that. But if you want that same feature in Top Producer X, if you think maybe there's a feature in X that could be improved, we have invested in a dedicated feedback system that's directly inside the product. So you don't even have to email us or call in to tell our product team, skip the service person, skip customer care, go directly to our product team and tell them what you want, right, in the product. So if you really want to be able to export contacts, for example, from Top Producer X, we know that's not in there, put it in there. So all you have to do is go to the bottom, click on feedback. It'll take you to this new portal. And this is where you can track all your suggestions, other suggestions from people. You can look them up, right? It's just a lot more collaborative in that way. We want to be more transparent with you guys as far as our product team goes. And you can even see what's coming. So like we have this what's coming page, and you can see what we were planning, what's on the roadmap. All these are in the roadmap, and what are we actively building right now. So for example, make Top Producer X mobile friendly, right? So if you want to see exactly what we're working on as far as the product goes, not a lot of companies do this, not a lot of products do this. We have a dedicated feedback section just for you guys, because we value your guys' opinions, your feedback. We want to make sure we make our new version work for you guys to, from 2023 and beyond is what I say. So make sure you take advantage of that feedback system whenever you see something in there that, isn't quite right to you. If you have any final questions, go ahead and throw it in the chat. We're about to wrap up here. We've got about 7 minutes or so. I just want to go over some frequently asked questions. Is there a cost to upgrade to Top Producer X? Answer is no. The same subscription price that you're paying, it's paying for both versions, so you can take advantage of both features sets. If you need to use the texting in X, you can do that. If you need to do labels in 8i, you can do that. Whatever you want, right? Whatever works for you. Do you have to stop using 8i? Nope, I've already answered that. And what's not in X that's in 8i? So that's a very good question. I don't have a comprehensive list, but like income and expense tracker is not in Top Producer X. So if you really like doing that, like the buyer net sheets, the seller net sheets in 8i, unfortunately, that's not in X. If you like creating reports, like contact reports, short phone and address lists, or exporting contacts, that's not in X. Printing labels, that's not in X. So stuff like that. If you happen to use a specific feature in 8i and you want to know if it's in X or not, right? Just chat with us and we'll tell you right up is, oh yeah, sorry, that doesn't exist in X, or yeah, it actually does exist in 8i. We just renamed it. For example, action plans in 8i, right? Instead of action plans, we call it task plans. So it could be just a minor change in the terminology. So if you ever have any questions on specific features that you use in 8i, if it's in X, just chat with us and we'll answer you right away. Before we get to final questions, I do want to point out again our chat button on the bottom right corner. So in my Top Producer X, it's just right there, and you'll get someone right away. I was talking to Usman earlier to test it out, so it gives me a history of what we were talking about. But our average response time on our chat is about a minute, so hopefully you guys get that fast service. If you don't need immediate response, and you just want have a maybe you're running late for an appointment and you just want to know how to set up your calendar sync, so you want to make sure you don't miss your next appointment, right? You can just email support@topproducer.com, and we'll respond to you within 1 to 2 business days. In that example, someone wants to know how to sync their contacts. We'll just reply to you with the link to our campus article that walks you through the process. Some of these campus articles have videos in them too. So if you want to kind of see a show and tell version, if that's easier for you to absorb and learn, some of our articles also have videos in them as well. And lastly, again, mentioning the campus website here. So if I'm just going to quickly show you guys here, it's topproducer.com/campus. And we even have a dedicated video library. So if you learn better from videos, you can just go there, and it's just a bunch of videos that you can watch, right? You can go top to bottom if you'd like. If you did enjoy this webinar, there's a webinar schedule on the top right corner. So if you click on that, today is the 26th, so we're right there. Tomorrow is a good one. Tomorrow, we're going to get into more details about all the features in X. So this one is more of a teaser, like, these are what you can do in X and all that stuff. But tomorrow, that's more of a question and answer period. Like if you want to know how to set up your automated lead response plan, right? If that's your question and you tried it and you just want to go through it again with us in this webinar, we're going to go over any questions that you have in there. We do have 4 things that we can suggest, but we would rather answer your questions, specific features in Top Producer X in that session. So that's definitely one I would recommend tomorrow. It's about the same time, 10 o'clock Pacific. And yeah, we update this calendar on a regular basis. So I think November is up already. Yeah, so check that out if you want to sign up for more webinars. But we got about 3 minutes here. I do want to make sure all your questions are answered. So if we go over 11 o'clock, that is okay. I'll be here to make sure you guys feel like your answers are your questions are answered. If you have to go at 11 o'clock, that's fine too. This webinar is recorded. So if you want to know where the webinar will be, it's going to be on YouTube. It's just youtube.com/topproducersoftware. I misspelled it, sorry. Producer software, there we go. So yeah, it'll just be in our list of videos. If you go to videos, it's sorted by most recent to oldest. So all our webinar recordings are in there if you want to watch this later on. If you have to go in the next minute or so. But let me go ahead and go on the chat here. I'm just going to start from the oldest questions here. How do you perform mail out labels from X? Okay, I think we answered that. Can't do that right now in X. Gary, is it better to use chat or email to support? Oh, I think we already talked about that already. Laura, do you have a text plan or is it integrated in the system? Is this possible through Facebook ad leads and Realtor.com leads? Okay. Yeah, so Laura's question, do you have a text plan or is that integrated in the system? Is this possible through Facebook ad leads and Realtor.com leads? So we don't discriminate who your leads are coming from. Doesn't matter where it's coming from, as long as you can set it up so that anytime you get an email notification from your lead provider that you got a new lead, and that email includes the names and their name, their contact information. We're most likely going to be able to take whatever's in that email and feed it into your top producer. So it'll create that contact record automatically. So we've got a really high success rate on that. But, if you want to learn more about that, just chat with us and we can give you more of the step-by-step instructions on that. And then once that lead is coming in, you have that automated lead response that will automatically start sending them messages over the next few days, however you want to set it up. Do we have text plan, or is that integrated in the system? Yeah, that is part of the automated lead response plan. So let me just give you guys a quick example of the one that we have in there by default. So I'm going to go to marketing. I'm going to go to my task plan manager. And this is what this lead response plan will look like. So we've already created one for you. If you don't like it, that's okay. You can create one from scratch. But this is the one we have. On the first day, day 0, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 tasks that has to be done on that first day. And some of them are automatic, like texting them immediately, emailing them immediately. Some of them are reminders for you to do, like 10 minutes after, you should send them a market snapshot. 20 minutes later, you should call them. 2 hours later, you should call them again, right? Until you get that response. And if you're still not getting a response yet, the next day, it's gonna send an email and a text automatically. Second day, it's gonna send an email, text automatically and remind you to call them, right? So it's very customizable. At the same time, it's also automated. David, as I understand it, the text doesn't show up as my number. So how does this work? So yes, David, once you set up the texting feature, it's going to assign you a local area code phone number that top producer will use to send out your text message from. It's not going to show your actual phone number from that text message. However, if that person you're sending a text to decides to call you on the one that we've given in top producer, it will redirect that call to your actual phone number. So you're not going to miss any inquiries in that sense. If they reply back to you, you'll get an alert on your phone and saying, hey, they replied to your top producer text message. Check it out, right? So that's how it handles it. Now, if you're worried that they're not going to respond to it because, they don't recognize that number, that's fair. But what I told people to do is that initial text message you send from top producer, just like if you had a phone call and you have, like, let's say you have a landline and a cell phone line, right? If they only know your cell phone line and you call them from your office phone number or landline and you say, hey, this is just my other line, just save it under my name, right? Do the same thing with text message. So when you send out that first text message from top producer, just say, hey, this is Gary, just save this number under my name. This is your realtor. So that way, whenever I send you an email, a text from this number, you'll know it's me. It's just going to come up with my name, right? So I've told other realtors to do that, and they, I've never had someone come back to say, hey, that that doesn't work, right? Most people don't really care what your phone number is. They just need to know it's you, right? So as soon as you tell them, hey, this is Gary, they'll know it's you whenever you send them a text from top producer. So hopefully that helps, David, or anyone else that's interested in using the texting feature. Randy, is top producer X down right now? It wasn't when we were going through the demo, so hopefully it started working again for you. If you're still having issues with that, just chat with us and we'll figure it out. Denise, I can't seem to get to this page in 8i. When I sign in, it goes right to my contacts. How do I get to that screen? I'm not sure what you're referring to there, Denise. Maybe Marvin's answered it already, but if you still need help with that, just chat it, post it again in chat. And then as soon as I get to the bottom of the list, I'll get to back to you, Denise. Gary, can you use X on our iPad? Gary, yes, you can use TopReducer X on your iPad. Just make sure your iPad is set to desktop mode, because if it's set to mobile mode, it's not gonna look right. It might not shrink properly. It is something that we are working on, hopefully in the next month or so, so that it'll work more as we expect it to on an iPad or an iPhone. Kelsey, I thought this was going to instruct us how to upgrade, not give features about X. I'm sorry about the misunderstanding there, but we are planning to, we are considering having another webinar where it's just strictly like, hey, let's go through all your settings. But if you want something like that, Kelsey, the Tuesday webinar show, it's more geared towards our new customers. So like the way we speak might be geared towards new customers, but that's probably the best one that you can sign up for, the next webinar that you can sign up for, Kelsey. If you want to know how to set up your TopReducer X, how to upgrade it from 8i to X, I mean, there's no upgrade fee, right? All you are going through is the settings in TopReducer X. So the Tuesday one is probably the best webinar that I would suggest for you to attend. Jana, I'm not able to copy paste these links for some reason. I think you're talking about the links in chat. If so, just let us know if you're still having that issue. I would try like control, like here's my screen here. I would do Control A on my keyboard and you can see it's highlighting, and then Control C for copy, and then paste, Control V to paste it into like your notepad or something. So if you just want to copy like the whole chat, and then you can just find the links from there that way. So hopefully that trick worked for you. If not, just chat with us, we'll figure it out with you. Denise, so texts are not available in 8i, just X. That is correct. We cannot make it available in 8i, just in TopReducer X. Gary, text feature is available in Canada. Unfortunately, the answer is no, because of the different legal marketing, I don't want to say regulations, but guidelines. Our lawyer said, yeah, we're not going to take that risk, at least for now. Texting is only available in the US, not available in Canada or any other country. I know that other countries or other companies allow texting from whatever app they use in for Canadian users. I don't know all the minute details of that, but from what I've been told, due to the different privacy laws and stuff like that, all the regulations, we've decided to at least for now only make it available for US customers. That could change in the future, who knows, but yeah, sorry to say it's not available for Canada. Kelsey, I was thinking about things like importing listings and closings. Actually, it's really easy. If you want to import your 8i closings into TopReducer X, just go to transaction, and there's a big button, import 8i closings, and that's it. It's just one click, you hit that. It'll import all your 8i listings and closings. With that said, it's only going to import your closed ones. So if there's ones that you're actively working on, like your pending listings, we don't really want to interrupt your workflow. So we decided we're not going to include that in this import, because we want you to finish that in 8i where you're already familiar with. And then once you close it, then you can hit that import button again. It'll copy it over into TopReducer X. But should be just easy as clicking that button. Well, that sucks for Canadians. Yeah, I know. David, what number does the recipient see with this text feature? I think we talked about that already. We will assign you one. Laura, if you include more than one person, does it make it a group text or send as individual? Laura, right now, it's only available as individual text messaging. Yeah, so maybe one day we'll have group texting, but We really want to help kind of make sure we build good habits here, because if you start letting people to just do group texting in Top Producer X, you know, it might start getting flagged as spam, right? And then everybody gets affected by that, right? So right now it's individual, but could change in the future. ADI has the ability to scan docs to each contacts. They are stored under attachment, which allows us to have instant access to contracts, etc., within the contact. Where is that in X? Perfect. So in Top Producer X, it doesn't have it inside the contact, but it does have something like that in transactions. So if you go to transactions, there's a dedicated tab for your document links. It works the same way as your as ADI, where if you upload that document, like a contract, right? You can upload it on Dropbox or Google Drive. And then from Dropbox or Google Drive, you just copy the link to that file. And then you go into the transaction and add it as a link. So if it's like, you know, listing agreement, Dropbox. I'm just making this up, right? So listing agreement for 123 Main Street. So let's say that's the URL. You just save it in there. Well, maybe I should follow the instructions as it says here. Sure. So just like the one in ADI, it's inside the transaction, not inside the contact. Makes more sense to be there anyways, but yeah, that's where you would track all those files. Hopefully that works. Dean, is it easy to migrate your database from ADI? I've been with Top Produce for nearly 30 years, have lots of data, migrate my database. Yes. The good news is your contacts are already there. There's no sync, there's no migration that you need to do. Top Producer X and Top Producer ADI, think of it as like two different brands, but the same owner, right? And they have the same supplier. So they share the same contacts. Whenever you add a contact or remove one or update one, it's gonna update it on both, regardless of which version you're using. So your contacts are already there, Dean. Gina, is there a way to create a listing from a contact like there is in ADI? Yes, there is. So if you go into that contact, you go to their transaction, just like in ADI, there's a tab called listings and closings. You can create that listing straight from the transaction tab. So again, this is where it's just that change in terminology. We just call it a transaction. That way it's, you know, it's just shorter, right? Because we don't want to confuse people what a listing is versus what a closing is. Like in ADI, a lot of people got confused what the difference between the two is. So here we just, you know, change it up to say transactions. So it could, whether you're representing the buyer, seller, it's just called a transaction. You can also create that transaction right from the Property Insights tab. So if you're working with a buyer and they say, yeah, I want to put up an offer for this property, right? You can actually say, make an offer and click on add transaction. And it'll just walk you through the process and put in all those key dates and all that stuff. So very convenient, especially if you're working with a buyer right there. Dean, when I look into X, I can't see my contacts. What about pending closings? Okay. So you, by default, when you're in your contacts in Top Producer X, it goes to the new tab. So if you don't have any contacts with that status of new, that's where it might seem like, you know, where's my contacts, right? But if you go to the All tab, you should see all your contacts, and it'll give you even the number if you hover over the little bubble beside it. If you still can't see it, let us know in chat, and we'll see what's going on with your Top Producer. But all your contacts should be there. David, the drag and drop vertical list won't keep saved in a contact. Should. So let's say emails, I want that there. Yeah, I mean, it works for me. Email snapshot, let's say, close it, and then I open it up. It saved it. So it might be just like a browser issue. Make sure your browser is always up to date, because like I've seen some weird issues with people's like Top Producer or 8i, and usually it's just the browser. Sometimes, you know, Chrome will, it's supposed to automatically update, but sometimes it waits for you to hit a button to update it. Could be that you might have to clear your cache or something like that. But if you're still not having any luck, just hit the chat button bottom right corner and we'll look into that with you. Denise thought you limited mailings to 100 clients at a time. So when you say mailings, if you're talking about emailing, because we don't have letter option in Top Producer X. Yeah, so it works a little bit differently. For those that don't know, in 8i, you can send 1,000 emails per day. So you can do it either all in one shot, one mass email to 1,000 people, or you can break it into groups if you want to, as long as you're staying within that 1,000 email per day rule. With Top Producer X, you can send out as many emails as you want, but you're limited for each batch of 100. So you can only select up to 100 at a time. And the max limit of how many emails you can send out a day, it's not up to us, it's up to your email account that you connect with. So if Gmail, I know Gmail, for example, the last time I looked at the rules, their max email per day is like 2,500. So you can send out 2,500 a day with if you connect your Gmail account in your Top Producer X, but you are limited to a batch of 100, at least at this time. I know if that's something you want to increase, you guys want a bigger batch, or maybe make it automatic, definitely let our product team know here in the feedback section, because I think that's one of those ones that the product team is looking into, to see if we can either increase it or make it easier for you to select your batch of 100 at a time. So Denise, how do you rectify that in X? What do you mean it does not come from a central source? Okay, so I think you're also talking about the email, as I mentioned earlier, with email deliverability. With 8i, it's sent from a central source. With X, it's not sent from a central source. It's not sent from Top Producer. It's sent through your individual email account that you connect in your settings. So if you have an Outlook account or an iCloud account or a Gmail account, it's sending it from that provider, not from Top Producer. Even though you're using Top Producer to send out that email, that's actually being sent through your actual email account. You can even see that in your sent folder. If let's say you send out an email from your Top Producer X, try it out, go into your Gmail account. If you have a Gmail account, go to the sent items folder. You'll actually see that email you sent from Top Producer in there, because it's actually being sent from that Google account. Same thing with an iCloud account. If you use an iPhone, you send out an email from your Top Producer X, make sure your iCloud is connected, of course, in Top Producer. Go to your sent item folders on your phone, you'll see it in there, right? That's what we mean here by not being sent from a central source. It's sent through your individual account that you connect. David, in 8i, we could add a spouse. How do we do that in X? Good question. So in X, if you go to a contact, you go to the relationships tab, just like the one in 8i where it says family and friends, and add a relationship. You can either select a contact that already exists in your Top Producer. So I'm just gonna pick someone random here, right? And it's already defaulted by spouse, so it saves you a click. You just hit save. If it's not a spouse, and let's say you want to call it partner, or maybe this is a tenant, right? You can add all these types of relationships in there. Let's just go with spouse for now and hit save. So the cool thing about this, the different thing with 8i, is they have their own separate records. So let's say things don't work out with Roger and Janet in the future, right? They're not spouses anymore. You can actually change it from spouse to ex-partner. So that way you can properly market to them individually, if you have to. If they're part of a divorce sale, that's okay too. They can be both part of the same transaction. They can be a party to the same transaction if you need to. But it just gives you a lot more flexibility. Let's say you don't want to send an email to both of them. You can just send out an email just to Janet, right? So you can see how quickly I did that, and I can toggle between the two contact records from this relationship tab. I can just click on that Janet name, and then it brings me to Janet's contact record. If you want to send an email to both, you can do that too. So if, oh, I don't have it set up, but basically what it allows you to do is when you start an email for one of those spouses, it will give you auto suggestions in that composed email screen. And it'll say, do you want to also include Janet in this email? So all you have to do is click on Janet's name when you're composing that email, and then it'll include that person into that email. So it's a lot more flexible than the one in 8i, where you have to like put all the spouse information in like the other email, other phone numbers. And then if they separate, you now have to do double the work again and separate them, make sure they're all separate, all that stuff, right? So with this one, it's just a lot more flexible. Marissa, where's the page to submit requests or feedback? Yeah, it's just on the bottom left corner here. Let's close this out. Just click on that. It'll take you to this feedback portal. Laura, can you use a personal number for texting, or do you need a generic number? I think I answered that earlier as well, but just to remind everybody, it's sort of a generic number, but it's a local area code. So at least it's not like a 1-800 number that your leads will be more suspicious about. It's going to be a local number, and they might still be suspicious. So that's why you want to send them a text message saying, hey, this is me, this is Laura. Just save it under my name on your phone, and just like you would do if you have multiple phone numbers and you're calling them from a weird number, they might not answer that call, right? But you can leave them a voicemail and say, hey, this is me. Save this number under my name on your phone. Run simultaneously. Yep. If you want to know how to get from your Top Producer X to your 8i, just click on your picture on the top right corner, and there's an option there that says go to 8i. So yes, you can run both simultaneously. You can toggle between the two depending on what you're doing if you want. Yeah. Gina, what about all our plans in 8i under Plans Manager? Good question. So for those that don't know, 8i Calendar Plans Manager. If you made your own, it'll be all in there. Those will continue to work. You can keep using them. We're not getting rid of that. You can continue to use whatever you like already. Just because we have a new version, we're not going to stop your workflow in your 8i. That's already happening, right? The problem is the Top Producer X, it's not built on the same programming, right? So it's a brand new platform. All those 8i templates and action plans, they're not going to be in X. Either recreate them in here. Plus, they don't even allow you to create letters and stuff like that, right? So like envelopes, labels, if you have that as part of your plan, those don't exist in Top Producer X. Anyways, only emails and texting exist in Top Producer X. So unfortunately, those templates and plans you have in 8i, my suggestion is just to keep using them in 8i, right? If they're already in there, just use it in there. But if you want to start a new one, do it in Top Producer X. But if you really want to use the one that 8i and just move it over to Top Producer X, you're just gonna copy paste it. Really, you just have this tab open. So this is what I would do if this was my computer, and the realtor, I would just have that open, and go through and go to task plans here, create a new plan, contact. Let's say this is 123 means top producer newsletter, right? Whatever I wanted, whatever I had it in 8i, I just copy paste it over. Yeah, there's a little bit of work, but you know, at least you can do that. So save plan, and then just like it's on the same screen, you just, you know, add task, and then let's say this is the first one to do, or maybe you have an email for it, and then you're just going through each one. I do like to think things of in a half full kind of way. It's more productive in that way. So what I would say is, although there is some work that you might have to do, I would think of it as an opportunity to refresh some of the marketing content that you maybe haven't looked at in over a year or something, right? You know, there's the new maybe not millennials anymore. Maybe the new audience is going to be the Gen Z audience, all of these TikTokers, right? So you might have to update your lingo, your language in your marketing. So take that as an opportunity in your top producer X, and maybe you're a more legacy type of audience. You can keep sending the same templates in 8i, however you like. So just something to consider there. Denise, yes. I'm sorry if there's any confusion. You can sync your calendar and contacts in X, but not in 8i. So the new one you can, the old one you cannot. Hopefully that is more clear. Carrie, will X ever be capable of printing mailing labels? Good question, Carrie. I don't know. So the only thing I can say about that is, if it works in 8i, we're going to continue to make sure it works in 8i and support you and make sure you're not having to worry about that in 8i. So keep using it in 8i for now. Hopefully in the future, it'll be in X. Printing labels is so important. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, so Denise, hopefully I've answered this multiple times already. You can use X and 8i at the same time, switch between the two, no extra cost. Yeah, perfect. Laura, is it possible to utilize a Google number for texting through X? So if you have a Google number and you want to integrate that in the texting feature in Top Producer X, I'm not sure. Try it. I don't know if Marvin's already answered that in chat, but I would say try it if it doesn't hurt to try. And then just chat with us if it works or not, and then it really I've never tried the one on Google to be honest with you, so yeah, I would say try it. Perry, does X have a profit and loss program to keep track of expenses? No, it does not. But you go to transactions, it does have it does track your commissions in here. And so how, the more you put in there, the more accurate it's going to be, right? So it does put in your commissions in there that you track for each individual transaction. So it'll calculate that and give you a number. It also depends on the listing date range. So if you want to see like all your 2021 commissions, you can do that as long as you put it all in there, right? So that's the only like numbers that it shows you as far as at least profit goes. It doesn't have like an income and expense tracker like the one in 8i. That's what you're using. If you like using that in 8i, keep using it in 8i. No problem there. Is there YouTube regarding including GIFs and videos in group mass emails in X or 8i? I'm having major issues sending anything. I don't have a specific YouTube video on that, trying out Google GIFs and videos. We could try it out in our Thursday show, Denise, to see how we can go about that. This isn't really the webinar for us to take the time to do that. So if you can register for the one on Thursday, you might have time to go through that one. Okay, that's an interesting one. I would like to try that out. David, I can't find 8i or X in the Android Play Store. David, it's not going to be in the App Store when it's available. It's not ready yet, but the mobile version, once it's ready, it's just like the one in 8i. The 8i has a mobile version too. It's just a website that you go to. It automatically detects that you're on a phone and it'll change it so it looks like an app. And then once you're on that mobile version, you can click on the button on your phone to add it like an app icon on your home screen. So you can just tap on it just like an app. So once it's launched, the mobile version of Top Producer X, it's just going to work like that, David. The nice thing about it is you're not having to actually download an app and keep updating it. So I know my phone keeps asking me to update all these apps all the time. And it's just kind of a hassle. So with this one, you won't have to do that. It's always going to be up to date because it's just like when you go on your computer and you go to our website, it's always up to date. You don't have to download and install any new version. Yeah, Marissa, it's like it should be 1,008i now. I don't think we have anything in the software to like actually physically stop you from sending more than 1,000. But it is in our subscriber agreement that you should be sending to 1,000 contacts or less per day. If it's something that is like abused, like if we see it all the time, then we'll contact you. But if you're just doing it like once in a while, we probably won't bother contacting you about it, just to be honest with you. But yeah, it is 1,000 emails per day. When you move the search box from the top right to the top left, it's a hassle crawling my mouse all the way across. Yeah, this one here. Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, that can make it a hassle. At the same time, some people like it that it's out of the way because they, it's like more of a distraction. Like I don't need to search all the time. I just want to deal with all my transactions. Right, but it would be nice to give you the option, right? So yeah, definitely hit the feedback button, David, and see if there's something we can do about that, or maybe the product team just didn't realize that's something that people want and something maybe it's easy for them to put in. If a married couple shares an email address, do we use that email address for each one? Yeah, that's a good one. That's more of a personal preference, Gary. It's up to you. Whatever you think would be more appropriate. Yeah, definitely you can put in the same email address for each one. So regardless of which one you open, it'll send it to the same email. Yeah. Denise, so templates do not transfer all automatically, a bunch of question marks. So I'm gonna guess that's a frustrating point for you. Yeah, unfortunately, the 8i templates and action plans are not in Top Producer X. You would have to recreate the ones that you want to use in X. But like I said earlier, if you don't want to have to do that, just keep using in 8i. 8i still works. If it's working for you, great, right? There's no change, right? Marissa, I thought we received an email saying 8i will no longer be supported, so I'm a bit confused on it. If it will continue to be supported if there are issues. We use the activity sections for showing daily for our clients. We don't want to lose that feature, and X does not have it. So yeah, good question here, Marissa. 8i, just to clear it up right now, it continues to be supported. We have no plans to stop supporting 8i. Now, is that going to be true forever, right? Like 10 years from now? I don't know. But right now, in the near future, there's no plans to get rid of 8i. There are features that will stop getting supported in 8i because we're running into a technical limitation. For example, the 8i inbox feature, maybe that's the email that you saw. The 8i inbox feature has been discontinued because we're running into technical issues with it. So we can no longer continue to keep it working the way it's supposed to work. So that one for sure doesn't work. And like I said earlier, the contact and the calendar sync doesn't work in 8i anymore. stuff like that. But our goal is to keep 8i going as long as possible, because that's what you guys are happy to use. But just keep in mind, it is older, so down the line, certain things might not work as expected despite our best efforts, and we'll try to put a newer or the same feature or maybe even better in Top Producer X. Marissa, can one or more person be logged into X right now? Only one user can be in 8i at a time. We're booting each other out. Yeah, Marissa, so if you have more than one person using Top Producer, you should really have a login for each person. Now I know that is an extra cost, but if that person is not really doing anything much more than like a simple task, and that's why you're just sharing a login, it isn't in just so you know, I'm not going to tell anyone, but it is part of our agreement, subscriber agreement, that each person should have their own license. But yeah, in X you can have multiple logins, so you're not going to boot each other out if you're using Top Producer X with the same username and password. In 8i you will. David, when adding relationship spouse, it creates the record but does not transfer her phone, email, etc. Thanks in advance. Yeah, you are right, David. It doesn't transfer over those phones and emails in the original contact record. That's because we aren't smart enough to know, even though the other email says this is the spouse's email, we don't want to take the risk of misidentifying an email or a phone number in that contact record that's supposed to be for the spouse, or maybe one of your assistants, if you have one, mislabeled it and it's actually not the spouse's email, or maybe it's outdated, right? So there's so many different factors when we were deciding what to do with the existing spouse in an 8i contact record. So that's why we don't automatically transfer that information over. You would just have to decide, okay, yeah, this is an old one, or this is their right email address. You'll have to remove it from the primary contact and put it into the new contact record that you created in Top Producer X. Yeah, so, and yeah, there's some stuff that it's not as fast and easy, but that's, we want to make sure we prioritize accuracy too, right? So unfortunately, they clash against each other sometimes. There's no perfect solution for every scenario. Looks like that is all the questions we have for today. Thank you guys so much for sticking with me for another 37 minutes. We had at least 10 of you here sticking with us. We had about like 30 or 40 people in the show, so really appreciate everyone's time here. I think that is, oh, we got one more question. Okay, David, I'll take this one as the last question. The vertical list to the left does not show up on the mobile experience. So David, if you're trying it out on the mobile experience for Top Producer X, just so you know, you might be seeing some like early work on that mobile version. So I can't guarantee, like, let's say this is your phone and you're accessing Top Producer X. You notice it kind of tried to change the way it looks, like, but everything is missing, right? So just say, I'm just gonna say it's not supported yet, but it'll have the proper buttons on the left or on the top right, whatever we decide, however the user interface is gonna look like. Right now, I just wouldn't even try to work it, because you can see on the desktop, it shows you all the buttons. On the mobile right now, it's not gonna show you all the buttons. So I'm just gonna ask for your patience on that a little bit. Thank you. Sorry, yeah. Oh, we're very good attitude about that, David. Thank you so much. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so that would be the final question. I'm sorry if I'm cutting anyone off with their question. Definitely take advantage of our chat button there, support. And we do this specific webinar every month because we're gonna have another set of 8i users that don't know anything about X and they want to know more about it. So this one is a monthly webinar. If you guys, you're more than welcome to join that one too if you want to. But otherwise, if you need one-on-one support, these are all your options in here. Hopefully I see you guys tomorrow's webinar, more details about like certain features in X that you guys might want to talk about, that kind of deal. Otherwise, I'm your host, Dan Salcedo. Thank you guys so much for your time. On chat that was helping out was Marvin LaRosa. Hope you guys have a great weekend. And if I don't see you, happy Halloween. David, you rock too. Yeah. Thank you. You're welcome. Thanks, Denise. Bye. Bye, everybody.